Hello, Sweat Symbol Squad. Welcome back to the podcast. If you're in the US, you might be gearing up for 4th of July week. I feel like this is really when summer feels like it hits its stride. June is, really great, but then I feel like things get really busy and all the summer events really pick up starting over the 4th of July. So I hope you guys have some fun things planned. I hope you are ready for maybe a little bit of R&R, and hopefully that starts this weekend for you. I know that the week of 4th of July is hopefully a little bit more chill in terms of your workload or whatever you have going on. So hopefully you are getting ready for a nice, relaxing little week. But that is not what we are talking about today. I do a lot of episodes about nutrition, motivation, all that stuff. But today we are actually talking about workouts. Specifically, we are talking about deload weeks. And if you're unfamiliar with a deload week, it's when you intentionally lower your training volume. So this could look like using lighter weight, decreasing reps or sets, or taking the week off from training completely, which is part of the reason this podcast is timed around this week, because next week for some of you might be a really good opportunity to be taking a deload week. So for the sake of this podcast, I'll be talking about deload week from a strength training perspective because that is the main focus with my one-on-one online coaching clients. Their workouts are all strength training based, and the deload weeks that we incorporate are from a strength training perspective. However, these can also be used in cardio settings as well. And in fact, you might actually be more familiar with that if you've ever ran any sort of race. So typically the week or two before a race, you're shortening the distances that you're running, your mileage is decreased quite a bit. And it's really treated as a taper before the big actual race. Now, these deload weeks could be scheduled and taken proactively, like the race example I just gave, especially if there's a point when you want to get to like peak performance, like running a race. That can be good to incorporate these scheduled deload weeks. But deload weeks can also be reactive, like if you're sick or you're noticing a lot of fatigue and buildup in your body. Either way, deload weeks should be taken on a fairly regular basis. And I know that might be scary for some of you because a lot of us feel like we need to push, always be working at our max effort. We should never be taking rest. We should never be taking unplanned rest days, let alone entire weeks where we're purposefully decreasing volume, because how are we supposed to be making progress if we're not always pushing to that max effort? But deload weeks actually have a lot of intention, and I want you to get comfortable with the idea of taking them on a pretty regular basis. The purpose of a deload week, what is it? Many of us, like I said, assume that if we're trying to make that progress, build muscle, increase strength, we should always be pushing to max potential. And well, yes, we do want to make sure that we're bringing intensity to your lifts and making the most out of every gym session. Deload weeks are also necessary, and they have a very strong purpose when it comes to overall programming and strength training. In fact, taking these deload weeks typically allows us to build more muscle and make more strength gains over time, which is what we really want. So if we're looking to build muscle, if we're looking to build strength, these are really important to be incorporating in your program. Now, how does that happen? What is the purpose of the deload week? There are a few different benefits to taking this decrease in volume or this time completely away from the gym. First up, deload weeks can help you shed built up fatigue. So at the end of the day, strength training is stress on our bodies. And while our bodies do a great job with recovery, especially if we're, doing all the things we need to do in order to properly recover. We're getting adequate sleep, we're eating enough protein, we're hydrating well, our program has proper volume, not too much. We still build up a lot of fatigue. When we're strength training properly, we're actually creating little tears in our muscles and creating a lot of fatigue overall. Over time, that compounds, and it can be necessary to shed all of that built up fatigue in a deload week. Deload weeks can also be great for injury prevention. Again, strength training at its core, stress on our bodies. And that's not a bad thing, of course. Sometimes stress is good on our bodies, but we don't need to live in a state of constantly pushing our bodies to the max week after week, month after month. That can be a recipe for overtraining and injury. So allowing yourself to take these deload weeks can really help to prevent injury and some of this overtraining. Deload weeks can also prevent burnout in training. Look, I'm a coach. I actually really enjoy strength training, but let's be real, it can get damn boring. If you are strength training in the most optimal way for building muscle, building strength, it's boring. You're often doing the same exercises for an extended period of time, and typically these exercises are all rooted in the same foundational movement patterns. And well, yeah, there can and should be variation in your programming, and you should see different exercises, throughout the course of 6 months to a year. It can still get boring. You're not showing up to this completely new workout every single week. You're not really switching up with a ton of different training styles that all feel really different. Really good programming, really good strength training is boring. You're doing very similar workouts. You're doing slightly varied versions of the same exercises. And yeah, it's fun to push towards a goal and increase your intensity and lift more weight. It's still kind of boring. So allow yourself the opportunity to switch it up. Try a new style of training. Try not going to the gym at all. Or just take that mental break of needing to pick up really heavy weight. Oftentimes what I see is people try to push through these feelings of burnout and low motivation, when in reality, that can just make those feelings worse. So instead of trying to push through, instead of feeling like you never deserve a break, instead of feeling like you just have to grit through it, give yourself permission to take a break. Allow yourself the opportunity to not get to the gym and see how that feels. Oftentimes, if you actually allow yourself to take that break, you're going to notice that you have increased motivation, you have a newfound excitement for training, and it feels a lot more motivating to get yourself to the gym again. Lastly, deload weeks can also increase your muscle sensitivity, which can be really helpful for hypertrophy, also known as muscle growth. If you are constantly pushing to the max, your muscles will get used to that stimulus. So allow time to back off, and your muscles may be more sensitive to increased training volumes in the future. As you can see, as you can hear, I guess, there are lots of different benefits and reasons to be taking a deload week. So if you fall into any of those buckets, it could be beneficial to take one. Now, how often you should be taking these deload weeks can be pretty individual. It's going to depend on the type of program you're doing, your recovery capabilities, and mostly how long you've been training for. As a general rule of thumb, I recommend shooting for a deload week every 4 to 10 weeks. More advanced lifters, so people who have been strength training for 2+ years really consistently, you should be taking them more frequently, while people newer to training can actually take them less frequently. Like I mentioned earlier, these deload weeks can either be taken proactively or scheduled reactively. If you're thinking proactive, I like to time my one-on-one online coaching clients' deload weeks. Some of them might not even be aware that this is considered a deload week, but I'm always programming these into their training and into their overall programming phases. Typically, I like to plan it around some sort of vacation or travel that they have coming up. It just really lines up nicely. It allows you to take a physical break and a mental break away from training. But if you don't have any travel coming up, then it can really help to line your deload weeks with the start of a new program. So the first week of a training block will be all brand new stimulus for your muscle anyway. It's all brand new exercises that my programs that I make for my clients are 4 weeks long. So that first week, that very first week of all new exercises, that's going to be a lot of new stimulus on your muscles anyways. So allowing yourself to decrease volume can help you focus on form, and then you can increase weight in subsequent weeks. So if you're not someone who travels very often, but you need these more frequent deload weeks because of how long you've been lifting, timing them in the first week of a new programming phase can be really helpful. On the flip side, sometimes deload weeks are unplanned. Maybe you get sick. Maybe your motivation has just continued to decrease the last few weeks and you're feeling really burnt out. Maybe you can just feel that your body is worn out and your muscles need a bit of a break. All of that warrants a deload week as well. You don't have to wait until you have a planned deload week in order to take it. Start getting good at listening to your body and thinking about when you might need a deload week, whether it was planned or whether it happens in the moment and it's an unplanned week that you take. Now, how do you actually go about taking a deload week? We talked about how it could mean a few different things, like and it really just means decreasing overall volume. But what does that look like? If you're not familiar with strength training programming, it can be kind of hard to understand what is that overall volume? What does that need to look like? So one way to take a deload week would be to take the week completely off from the gym. So like I said, if you're going on vacation or you're traveling in general, just take the week off. Allow yourself to have that week off. Or if you're sick, another great example. I will say, if you're taking deload weeks as frequently as every 4 to 6 weeks, this isn't the method I would recommend every time. We don't need to take full weeks off from the gym that frequently, and that could really start to impact your progress. But if you're sick or going on vacation, this is a great option. So, once in a while, take a full week off the gym. Every 4 weeks, don't use that as your deload week. Don't be taking a full week off from the gym every 4 weeks if you can help it. Besides that, you want to decrease overall training volume, which you could do in a few different ways. So one way to decrease your overall volume during this week would be to use less weight. So for example, if when you currently train, your program has you shooting for an 8 to 9 RPE, a deload week, you might shoot for that RPE of 6 to 7. You're decreasing the weight, which means you're going to decrease the intensity. Another way to decrease volume would be to decrease your overall sets and reps. So again, going back to a programming example, say that your program typically calls for 4 sets of 12 of a squat. In a deload week, when you're decreasing sets and reps, you might do 3 sets of 8, but use the same weight for that squat. You could also do both. So you could decrease weight and you could decrease reps or sets. With my clients, so you would pair those two. In that case, you would do, if your standard program called for 4 sets of 12 of a squat and you were squatting 100 pounds, in a deload week, you would, squat 3 sets of 8 and at a much lighter weight. You can do any of these. These are all great options. With my clients, I typically program focused on decreasing training intensity by having them use less weight. So my clients all use the RPE scale in our programming. It allows you to, in my opinion, better listen to your body and understand what that RPE feels like during each individual workout instead of always shooting for, that 70% of that 1 rep max, which a lot of my clients are newer to lifting. They're not familiar what that looks like for them. So the RPE scale is a really good option. So during our deload weeks, we're taking the RPE down. They're using less weight and they're focusing on lifting at a lower intensity. So my challenge to you at the end of this episode, now that you know what a deload week is, you know how often you should be taking them, you know how to incorporate them. My challenge to you is to actually start incorporating them if you're not already. I know it can feel really uncomfortable to purposefully take weeks off from the gym, but it is necessary. It's going to allow you to build more muscle and increase your strength faster over time than if you never took these deload weeks. A lot of my one-on-one coaching clients tell me after they allow themselves to either take a planned deload week or maybe they take the entire week off from the gym after going on vacation, they are often shocked at how strong they feel when they get back to the gym. And that first session back, a lot of them end up hitting PRs on a certain lift. And that is really the benefit and the, really strong argument for taking these deload weeks. It allows you to build more strength. It allows you to build more muscle because you're giving yourself that opportunity to really properly recover and back off for a week. Your muscles need that. the mindset piece is a really big part of this. And the best thing I can tell you is that the more you take these weeks and you realize that you not only did you not ruin your progress or lose any progress, you actually make more progress when you incorporate these weeks, you're going to start to get more comfortable with them. So like anything on your health and fitness journey, the first deload week you take, maybe the first 3 deload weeks you take, they're going to feel uncomfortable because you're doing something that you don't typically do, and you won't yet have proof that that method is working. But the only way to get proof that this new method of taking deload weeks is working is to try it and give yourself that opportunity, give yourself that shot to see if it works or not. So I'm going to encourage you to sit in those feelings of discomfort, to take the deload week, and then report back. Let me know how it goes. Did you get stronger your first session back? Were you able to make more progress, build more muscle, lift a heavier weight over a more extended period of time? Are these deload weeks helping your programming? Pay attention to it because I'm going to bet that you will see a big increase, a big substantial increase if you actually allow yourself to take this additional recovery time, because many of us don't. We think we need to be pushing, when really we need to scale back sometimes. So take your deload weeks, let me know how it goes, report back, and start to get more comfortable with it the more you do it. That is all I have for you guys today. But if you have any questions on anything I talked about in this episode, please reach out to me, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I know this is an uncomfortable topic and can be an uncomfortable concept to like wrap your brain around. So let's chat about it. I want to help you guys feel good about this concept, and I want you to start incorporating these on a more regular basis. So please don't hesitate to shoot me a DM. If you have a friend who you know would benefit from these deload weeks, send this episode to them. Let them share in this with you. But in general, I hope you guys have an amazing week. I always appreciate you being here, and I'll talk to you soon.